place to get right. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Jayne. Yep. Any questions, Jayne? Is it okay if we ask as we go through, or would you prefer questions to be reserved to the end?
No, ask as you go through, because I'm going to be asking you guys some questions too. So we're just going to have a quick, so I'll do an introduction. I'm Jayne Johnston. I run Better People. And I've been, I'm a generalist recruiter background, Manpower, Microsoft, Brook Street. And I specialize now in working with entrepreneurs and business owners who know that in order to achieve their growth goals, they've got to bring in the right people. And I offer much more than just CVs. So it's the whole process from the thinking to right through to the end. Sorry, I heard somebody then. Was somebody? Yeah. So what I wanted to talk about today very broadly, and some of you have already had these kind of conversations with me, is the fact that the landscape for recruitment these days is very different, isn't it? It's very varied. It's not, you know, we've got some work that needs doing. We need to hire somebody. We're all looking at different ways of engaging with people. I mean, I don't know about you, but at the moment I've got an outsourced virtual assistant who I work with on a day-to-day basis. And with that agency that I'm working in, there's also some specialist website individuals that I work with there. I've harnessed Upwork and Fiverr over the last 6 months to do an isolated piece of work that I wouldn't have employed somebody to do. But, you know, I've worked with companies who are working with a fractional marketing director, and they have, and then the company that they're working with have a hands-on individual employed in the company who takes on the work that that the fractional strategist, if you like, is sharing expertise, and that's fractional individual helps that business to lead in an area where they don't have particular skills. So when we're looking to recruit as business owners, well, my job, I think these days is not to say, yippee, you've given me a job, I'm going to charge you 18% of the salary for that, and the more you pay, the happier I'm going to be. No, what I want to do with business owners is to help them to look at workflow and look at what is going to be the best solution for them and their business now and on an ongoing basis. I want to be with them. I want to be their recruitment partner. I love being with entrepreneurs on their growth journey and giving them something that's the best value for them and their solution today. So how many of you are employing people at the moment? Can you give me a kind of a hands up? Okay, so and how many of you are outsourcing pieces of work in ways that I described, either to Upwork or Fiverr or? Okay, so if I said to you today, what would you most like, given that I've kind of widened this out to talk about the whole recruitment landscape, what questions do you have for me today? Who has a question that they'd like to open with? Nick, hi.
Hi. I've been running a business for 20 years, and we've always grown our talent from seed, quite often from school.
Great way to do it, yeah.
I started a new, a spun off a business, taking part of what we do and flipping it on its head. It is likely to grow very fast, so I'm likely to have to recruit and grow high-performing teams rapidly, and that scares me a lot because it's engaging with talent in a completely different way. And so I suppose the problem that I am most concerned about is how do I replicate what I've been able to achieve by growing talent from scratch and having them know the way that we work as an organization, sort of almost inbuilt into them. How do I recruit for people that I can create that same feeling of they know our business very rapidly?
So I think that there's a very, I work with something called a recruitment blueprint that I created, which covers 8 points that, and if you follow, don't worry, I'm not going to go into all of those, but if you follow that all the way through, it really does work, and it's recruitment done thoroughly. So you think very carefully up front what it is that you want these people to be able to do. What will they be doing day to day? How will success be measured? How will you know let's imagine that you're going to give them a 3-month probation. How will you know at week 11 that they're likely to be confirmed, that they're going to be confirmed? You need to make sure that your job description is accurate, that your interviews are reinforcing the culture and the values of your organization, and there are ways of doing that. And then your onboarding is essential, and being rigorous about your probation and your the process where you bring people in and you make it very clear that they, whilst you're being open and generous and giving them as much of an opportunity to succeed as you possibly can, the message is that I'll do my bit, but you need to do your bit and you need to perform. High performing was the phrase that you used. These individuals need to be resilient. They need to, stand on their own 2 feet. And they need to be carefully managed in the early stages in order to get them acclimatized, into your culture. And you need to be having those regular meetings with them during their probation, where it's a 2-way street. They're talking to you, you're talking to them, and you need to be able to listen to them and learn, because these are new roles for you. So, what you learn from these individuals when they come into the organization is invaluable for, taking this forward. And I would probably start, although you need lots of them, if you possibly could, I would start with maybe integrating 1 or 2 at a time, rather than taking them on all at once.
That's and certainly it will be a gradual build over this next 2-year period. I'm very fortunate I've just taken on a co-founder who has much more experience of this than I do. So I'm not an entire. I think between us, we're reasonably placed. If I was on my own, I'd feel very nervous indeed.
Yeah, and like anything in a business, measure, test and measure. That went well. How long did that take us to get a response? Where did categorize everything? So that was, we wrote a good job description. We advertised it using CV Library and Indeed and blah. We paid this much for it. It took us this long to do it. So have all of these things that you measure, and then look at your ratios. Look towards the end of, as you come to an end of a period, review those ratios and KPI statistics, whatever you like, success ratios, and compare them. What works, what didn't work. Don't keep doing what doesn't work. Where could you tweak it? Where could you make it better? What interview questions are you asking? When you have a good interview and you get the answers that you want, and you're able to elicit the kind, and it gives you the response that you want, and generates the kind of people that you want, then why would you not replicate that? Why would you not keep those questions for those kind of categories? And that's what people who recruit for culture and values do. They have questions that will enable them to dig deep and find out really what those individuals' attitudes are, because we can find people who can do the work. Very often you can look at CV and say, well, particularly techies, it is, they've done this, they've worked for that, you don't really need to interview them. Arguably, I'm being flippant, but it's the nature of the individual and their accountability and how they're going to thrive in a growing business. And that's a whole other question, that we really should be looking at that when we're interviewing for growing businesses, because, we can look at a CV and think, wow, well, they've worked for Oracle, they've worked for Microsoft, they've worked for Uber, or whatever. But actually, when you bring those poor individuals that have worked for those great big organizations, and they've been really expert in this particular thing that they do, put them into a small business where they have to answer the door, make the tea, help somebody else out with a meeting, help a colleague, step in here, be responsible for where the work comes from and where it goes. They're like battery hens that you've let out into a field, because they're really, really good at this, but put them in a small business and they just don't thrive.
So certainly, we specialise at working with neurodivergent talent, and we've developed a business that is very, very good at accommodating people that think differently and getting the best out of them. Let's you and I have a chat, because I think that we've got lots to talk about.
I'd love that. Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions or comments that they'd... Neil, this was kind of ties into things that you and I have spoken about in the past.
Yeah, no, lovely to see you again this morning. I think it is, for us, we have a clearer vision of where we are, and due to partnerships that are coming on board and things that we need, and we're in the middle of a capital raise and everything is exciting. We definitely have a clearer vision. The comment that you just made about taking people from a corporate, they don't understand the startup world. They have no clue, and they may have the most amazing CV and run 3,000 people. They have no clue, right? It's a, I wouldn't do that. For me personally, and I've seen it with the 2 or 3, 4 staff that we have brought in, because we do outsource certain tasks, marketing to different degrees, PPC, etc. For me, it's about getting that raw young talent and growing with them. My customer service colleague Olivia is fantastic. I've seen her grow, right? And I'm proud. I am proud for the time and effort that we've put in to make sure that she's fully in control. The next person that we need, I want her to be part of that process to what she wants, because I'm now delegating further things for her to do. When you come into a startup business, we as the owners, founders, have to have this vision. We have to be passionate about where we are and be able to tell that. You can tell very quickly, just from that first 20-minute interview, if they've got something or not. I do believe that.
Yeah.
Right. And if not, and if we're in because we're more than just a startup now, like we're a scale. And when you scale, it's about what we have and the partners and people that are doing it. And it's about setting that gold standard, but being flexible around it. Because I don't really care if my employees are not in directly at 9 o'clock in the morning, right? There are troubles. I get that. Give them that flexibility. Don't be so rigid in, you need an extra day. It's okay. As long as you're doing the work, we can do it. When you're a massive business, you're running 300 people, there needs to be a formula that works. You actually, and there are times where we're really busy, but we're efficient. And they will put in that extra bit for you because they're part of your family. That's the way a startup should be. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think trust is a big word for me.
All about trust.
In a smaller business, it's trust. They're trusting us, raw young talent. It annoys me when people say, "Oh, well, you can get away with paying this, and you only."
It's not about the pay. It's
no, exactly.
Not about the pay.
But if people don't recognise that, yeah, taking on raw young talent is a big responsibility. We have to train them. We have to show them the way. We have to share our vision, and we have to support them and remind them of that often. But the rewards are fantastic. Nick Ford, you just said that you grow your own talent. Well, you've seen the rewards there, and I wish that more businesses could do that and give young people opportunities in that way. Neil Linford, you and I have talked about workflow in business as well, haven't we? And the different ways that jobs are created and outlined. And sorry, I see you've got hands up. Nick Adams, yes, we haven't heard from you. What did you have to say?
Yeah, hello there. Just lower my hand. So the approach we've taken. So we're pre-revenue, a startup. We needed talent, but we needed it on the cheap because we're bootstrapped. So for the development, we actually offshored to a friend that we knew who ran a firm based out of Singapore, but using resources that are out of the Philippines. And that's been hugely successful for us. We've had great product built for us on time, on budget, for a fraction of what it would have cost in the UK. So that's been very successful. If we look at resources here in the UK, the route we took was to actually use interns provided by a business that had effectively uni students that needed to get some work experience. So we didn't even have to pay for the interns, which was excellent. And then after their 12-week internship, if they had proven themselves and they were a culture fit, then we would actually onboard them and take them onto our payroll. So I think we've been as clever as we can in managing our funds, trying to get talent, and then being able to judge if they're the right people, and if they are, then to be able to recruit them.
Definitely. Well, that's a success story, isn't it? And I guess, like anything that we do around recruitment and getting work done, the skill as well is in the brief, isn't it? Is in how you engage people and how you communicate to them what it is that you need them to do. And quite often that gets missed. You know, people will say, well, I tried outsourcing, but it didn't work. It's like, well, I bet you the talent's there. You're not communicating that effectively enough.
Yeah.
And also when we outsource work, we also have to be prepared to check. You know, we need to make sure, and like I'm sure you did, that the quality was right before you press the button on replicating it over and over and over. And the people that you're working with want to know that they're doing a good job as well. So it's hard work. Like having young people and training them is hard work. You need to invest in the time up front to do that briefing and planning. Yeah, so thanks, Nick. There's some Ollie, you've got your hand up.
I think Peter was before me.
Sorry, Peter.
so,
Hi.
yeah.
I'm not very good at this hands up thing. Sorry about that. Hi, Peter.
Hi. Yeah, my business, when I get some funding, will be to basically outsource the main part of it to specialist companies. But what I need in the office, then I've got people at director level that will do that sort of work. But office manager, admin assistant, and then people bring them on board to do monitoring the activities of the companies that are being outsourced. So I'm particularly concerned that I don't want to waste time and effort in picking the wrong people and not being able to change them when I need to. And I'm a bit concerned, and I would be interested in your views on how the new government legislation on employment may affect that.
Well, I'm not an expert on that, but I understand that you're probably referring to, this is going to sound like a politician's answer, isn't it? And it really is, that you're referring to the difference in the probation period and getting...
Well, that's whether there's anything else that is relating to it as well.
Also, the increase in employers' national insurance for which is particularly, can be onerous on a small business. My feeling is that, if you need to employ somebody, you are going to be subject to that unless you choose not to employ and look at other options like, you could outsource to a temping agency, which can be quite expensive and ongoing. And all the time that you have somebody temping for you, they are quite likely to, they could easily just go off and find themselves a permanent job or go back to wherever they came from, or for whatever reason that they are choosing to be temps. It's a two-way street. So they can leave you quickly and you can get rid of them quickly. Right. And that's great for your flexibility, but also annoying if you've trained them, etc. The other way of looking at things is you could have a VA, and you can either have an offshore VA or or you can go to an agency. So you could have an individual that does your admin for you on a remote basis who doesn't come into the office, or you could but the thing is about having an employee is that you're making a commitment to them, and they are making a commitment to you, and you can invest in them and train them, and then they can help you to manage and build a culture and to manage all of the outsourcing work that you do. So yes, it's going to be more expensive for us as employers slightly, but that it is what it is, kind of thing. Sorry, that isn't. Okay. Was that a good answer for you? I hope so.
No, that's fine. I mean, we're all learning, aren't we, as we go along with all these these changes that are coming along to us. And it's just interested to see your view on, you know, how it may affect us. Or, I mean, you've made some good suggestions there. Perhaps initially, when I start off, it might be worth me just using a temp until I've got the time and effort to bring somebody on board and train them properly. Because obviously, when you get started, you've got so many things going on at the same time. That you're focusing on the staff is probably, you know, the thing that gets left behind, really. You just expect people to get on and do the work. And I'd rather not do that. I'd rather, you know, find the right person or right people and train them up properly and integrate them into the company with our values, as you say. So thank you.
And now, you know, one of the things, I put together a bunch of slides, but they're not really so relevant now. But one of the things that I had on my slides was, you know, when do we recruit? When do we think about doing that? I would, because there's a skills shortage, certainly where we are in the Thames Valley, and sort of mid-range executives and people are, well, everybody's really risk averse. No, people, there just isn't that flow in the job market that there was before COVID, because of the economy and where we are, and people have got mortgages to pay and childcare to cover, and they're just not looking for jobs. So it takes longer to fill jobs. So if you're looking to recruit in the future, you've got the luxury of time. Plan it very well. You know, have a look at, you know, the first thing you're going to need is a job description before you do anything else. You know, you're going to need to know what it is that you're recruiting for specifically. So don't suddenly think, oh, I need someone to start next Monday. Oh, quick, let's get a job description off the internet. No, it's bonkers. People do that, believe me. Think about it now. Start, you know, have a scratch pad beside you, and every time you find yourself doing something that you think, oh, this isn't me. Oh, this could be the office manager job. This could be, you know, the marketing person. This could be whatever it is. And you'll come up with a great big list of things, and then you'll recognize that some of it is just stuff that you don't like doing, that you're hoping somebody else is going to do, which isn't always the best way to build a job description. Sometimes it is.
No, you're right. I mean, I've been doing that with particularly with the directors at the moment, because obviously it depends on the skills they've got, what skills you're missing that you need to fill those gaps. But yeah, you're absolutely right. While I've got time and I've not got investment, then that's the time to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And also think about all of your measurables and how you're going to manage them, and how you would onboard them, and who would train them, and where they're going to sit. I mean, all the really basic, simple, where they're going to sit, how much they're going to be paid, how much holiday that you're going to give them, what essential hours do they have to do? Do they have to be in the office? You know, all of those minute, that seem like minute details now. When you go to market with that role, you're going to be asked those questions, and that detail is going to need to be on your adverts. You know, and also salary. You know, a lot of people in startups think that, you know, because they've got such a, and we believe, don't we, that our product is the best, and, you know, that everybody will want to work for us. And that I've heard people say frequently, well, let's not, there isn't really a salary for this, because, you know, in 18 months time, that, you know, with the right person, is just going to be, you know, we're going to give them equity, there's going to be shares, whatever. Well, that's lovely and that's great, but that means that you're expecting somebody who is not earning anything, who you can only be attracting somebody into a role like that, where they're not going to be earning anything for the next 18 months. You're now fishing in a very small pond, because that means that these people don't have any expenses. They don't need to pay a mortgage. They don't need to run a car. You know, they've got so much money that well, arguably, why do they even need to work? So why would they work as hard as that in your business? And I'm generalizing, but it'd be much better to put together a package which is, you know, a reasonable, decent salary with you know, incentive further down the line. You know, in 6 months' time, you'll get a share of the profits, or blah, blah, blah. Sorry, that was a very long answer to Peter, and I haven't asked Ollie what he's got to say.
Said so many times in the past that for when we go into recession environments like we are at the moment, and there's technological change like the what's happening with AI, there's thousands and thousands of new opportunities for founders and entrepreneurs. I made more money during recessions than during good times. we had a number of recessions that we dealt with, and it was good because the big corporates we were competing against, in general, pulled their horns in. They were in regression. They weren't spending on marketing. They weren't being as adventurous as they could with bringing up the right salespeople in. And not only did we win more work, but our talent acquisition went through the roof, because all of a sudden people were available and you were talking to people that you would never, ever have any chance of speaking to in the past. And I think we're heading into one of those areas at the moment where many on this call and many in startup stand-up could find themselves in a very, very fortunate position of having people all of a sudden in the team that they never thought would be possible, and always be looking out for that. Now, that said, the question is to you, Jayne, what is your outlook? What do you feel could happen in the recruitment industry this year?
Yes, I think we're going to see that, and I think I'm seeing that more and more. That I mean, I've got a job on in Oxford at the moment, working for a destination management organization, supporting the CEO, and the caliber of people that have applied for that, you know, and it's not paying a particularly good salary because it's a charitable trust. And I'm seeing that already, that people are being made redundant from some quite big organizations as well. Yeah, so I'm seeing that there is talent there. You need, and it makes it a tricky job for me, because I can't say, I don't want to say, oh, this job is out of their league, because there's such great value, if you look at it like that, that if they are prepared to do this job for 32,000 a year, then great, let's get them in. So yes, you do see different caliber of a higher caliber of candidate applying for the jobs. But then what's also happening as well is that because of that, those people are making I'm seeing much more people coming into, like, I do a lot of business networking, and a lot of people are coming into what we old-fashioned words, self-employment, fractional, you know, great talent that you could buy for 2 days a month, you know. And why wouldn't you do that if you can get somebody who's 120K person who's run a fabulous, you know, city agency, and who's available to give you their expertise and grow with you for 2 days a month, rather than you paying them, you know, happy days. Why not do that? And then get a, you know, marketing coordinator to be the in-house person that does the day-to-day and the delivery and the, you know, posts the social media stuff and liaises with the outside agency on other things. And yeah, so, and also those individuals are contributing greatly to that gig economy, so that us you know, business people can tap into that. It doesn't make me lots of money, because they don't tend to, you know, but it's a solution, you know.
Thanks, Jayne.
Neil Linford Ralph, sorry.
Yeah, have full names. Too many Neils on the call, or rather, two Neils on the call. No, I was just thinking, Jayne, about, I guess, our conversation and the changing requirements of employment and employees, where employee engagement is much more important than it used to be. That there is a very changed attitude towards employment of younger generations, where they don't see it as we did, which you get a job and you commit to it for years and years, and, you know, it's career progression. The whole notion of job for life, or even job for 5-10, doesn't exist anymore. People do actually have more of a gig economy piece. But then also what that means to employers about actually buying people into the purpose and the vision. You know, people want to come to work and work for companies that they believe in, as much as working for the one that will offer them the highest salary. And quite often employers almost treat employees like they're getting an electrical engineer in to fix their lights for them, rather than actually saying, do you know what? We want you to be part of the company, part of the culture. We want to buy in your ideas. And I think that's just a pivot that we need to do. I remember, a lot of you guys know Jim Holland, but we worked on his kind of principles for karma. And then he got me to when he was onboarding his initial team in Manchester, he got me to talk through what the principles were and who the customers were, and that kind of onboarding, so that it brought them into the dream. And that's an important part of it. So yeah, I guess I was just reflecting on our conversation later last year and wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Definitely. No, so we titled this Applicant Attraction, and it's a very big part of what we need to be doing as business owners, that this isn't just about advertising a job. It's about creating the position, from scratch, or reviewing the job description and then writing a compelling advert and placing that advert in all the places that you have to place it to, job boards, all of those things. But, if I had £1 for every time an employer has said to me, oh, you won't find anybody for this role because we've had it on our website for 6 months and nobody's applied. Well, I always tell the story that that's a bit like me putting an ad for a new recruitment consultant on my front door. The only person that's going to see that are people that are actually walking down my path, that have been directed to me. So that's too many parcel delivery people and my postman and probably my mum sometimes. We have to, and then, so you can put your job on your website so that when people are pointed to it, that they will go and look at it. But when they go and look at it, they need to see so much more than the careers page. They're going to be looking at, can I see them from this website? Is this a good place to work? What do they, I can see here that there's some pictures of the directors having some fun, dressed up as Mamma Mia on their charity day. Which charities do they support? Which do they, look, there's a story. There's Jayne. She used to be their apprentice and now she's their technical sales manager. And, so are there people stories? Are there things on your website that make you stand out as a good employer? We have to attract these young people that we're talking about. We have to, Neil's quite right. They are looking for very much more than money. And it's not just about do they work from home or do they not? There's that they want, the corporate social responsibility piece, as it used to be called, is a box that has to be ticked. They want flexibility in everything. What's in it for them? It's not just about, well, they ought to be lucky to have an interview, never mind have a snooker table to play on. It's much more than that. So yeah, that's very important. And then people will do work on their values piece and building a culture and all of that. But once you've done that and that consultant who worked with you is gone, how are you then living that and enforcing it? Are you, how is it involved in your onboarding? Or what part does it play in your job adverts? It needs to be reflected all the way through. Recruitment is marketing and it is part of your outward message. And that's how you start and that's how you engage those individuals. And you will find that if that's how you're setting out your store, that the right people will come to you. If you're reinforcing that message all the way through. Yeah, it's important. Yes.
Jayne, it's been fabulous this morning having you on. And as I said to you at the top of the call, what I'd like to do is run a series of these things because it's a big area. And I know a lot of our members are interested in this area. Not only that, I think there's some key things going on at the moment, which is going to change the recruitment process for a lot of founders. And it's important that founders can recognize them trends and benefit from them and harness them in whatever way they can. So it's been fabulous. Any last minute questions for Jayne whilst she's with us this morning? I think we've exhausted a lot. What I would say, if you wouldn't mind sharing your slides with us, maybe send them to Lee. We can put them in Circle, and that would be useful, I think. And we can look to book another a follow-up talk on this maybe in a month or two. I think that would be very, very useful, Jayne.
I'd like that. Thank you. We covered a lot, didn't we? We jumped around a lot. So I hope that was helpful. And anybody that wants to follow up, I know, Nick, you said that you'd like a call. So maybe I'll connect with you on